So I have a tumor in my spinal cord. Basically, I don't really have a lot of sensations in my legs. I don't know where the floor is.
Like even now?
Some people, they have acquired disability. So whatever role that they had is actually suddenly incredibly challenging. You might just say, okay, I have to just quit.
At some point, I fell into like a depression.
I saw someone with a personal mobility aid and they're trying to reverse into the lift, but nobody is pressing the lift and then...
Or someone would DM me like, maybe you should do more good things in life.
I'm
or
sorry?
This is karma. I don't know.
What? Hello and welcome to Pantang, where we dive into topics people are usually scared to talk about, but here, we're not.
We're not.
Yeah, I'm Fauzi.
And I'm Azura. And today we'll be talking about something that doesn't get talked about enough. What is it like when, you have a disability, to live with a disability in a world that wasn't exactly built for you?
Yeah, and it's not just talking about ramps or accessibility, right? It's also about like the mental and emotional weight that comes with it and navigating spaces that don't always include you.
That's right. And I think maybe, we might not know too much about it, but today we have guests where we'd like to hear their experiences, understanding challenges and just what it's like to heal and to trust in yourself.
Joining us first, we have Hashy Yusof sharing her personal journey and Syed Kadir who can help us make sense of it all.
I think Hashy is very familiar to a lot of us. She's a singer-songwriter, content creator, and a disability advocate known for overcoming a life-altering spinal cord tumor. And she discovered that when she was 22.
Next up, we have Kadir, a social worker from SPD Employment Support Program who assists with job seekers with disabilities in overcoming psychosocial barriers and reaching their employment aspirations.
Here at Pantang, we like to let the cards decide and take our conversations further. So let's start with the first one, shall we?
Let's go.
Okay. First card says, what is something people think is not a big deal, but is actually traumatic for a person with disability? Wow. Hashy, I know you've spoken about this to death and you've covered quite a bit about it, right? But just walk us through a little bit about your condition.
So I have a tumor in my spinal cord. So it's affecting nerves like from my hip to my toes.
Okay.
So basically, I don't really have a lot of sensations in my legs. So I don't have balance. I don't know where the floor is.
Like even now?
Yeah, I have to consciously remind myself where's the floor.
Right. It's like a mental and physical
Yeah. It's
strength.
like your brain and your legs, the Wi-Fi is weak.
Right.
I love that you put it in such a light-hearted tone. I wanted to ask, is there any disappointing interactions you've ever had on social media? Because I have something I want to share with you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, from time to time, people will send me not so nice DMs or comments. Yeah. Like recently, someone was asking me, why you jalan kengkang like that?
Right. Aku jot.
Or someone would DM me maybe you should do more good things in life.
I'm
or
sorry?
This is karma. I don't know.
What? I'm usually commenting on your posts and I've seen firsthand. So there was a comment when I said, hey, sending you healing jujus. Yes. And there was this commentary saying that how can you be so ignorant knowing the fact that she will never heal from this?
Yes, I saw that.
Huh?
Yeah.
It's I don't know, people just want to fight.
First of all, it's not their place to talk about it. And I wanted to reach out to you now since we are here together. And I wanted to ask you, I'm so sorry if I have offended you in any way whatsoever.
Not at all. I think anything that is left in a positive and good comments, I'm taking it well, and it's nice. I appreciate it. But they're just people being people.
People being people.
Yeah.
When you look at trauma, a lot of times people see it as this one big incident, your surgery or your accident. But the reality is that people with disabilities, they have to interface a lot of the times with a lot of these kind of situations. These so-called microaggressions, which almost forces you to face it again and again. And I think maybe that is one way of looking at the reality of this trauma.
Not to sound ignorant or anything, don't come at me. I'm just asking. Because you discovered it at 22, right?
Yeah.
So before that, you lived without, your condition. And then you had to, completely readjust and almost unlearn and relearn, right? Would you say one of the hardest things?
Yeah, it's hard because I've lived like 22 years of my life doing whatever, like being independent and walking and fine. Like nobody just forgets how to walk one day. So having to adjust to a new life and recently learning how to accept it and accept my body and learning to love like my life. Yeah, it's quite a process.
Kadir, so I have a question for you. What sort of support does Singapore or your association have for conditions like Hashy does?
Really, it's looking at what is where the person is, right? I think like Hashy brought up an interesting point about this grieving and this accepting reality, right? The reality of that is everyone sort of has to go through that process. And the second point I would say is that everyone grieves and goes through that process differently and at their own pace. So I think like that's an important thing to be aware of. With that being said, then the question is, what services or what support is needed for that person, whether it be formal support, through organizations and those kind of resources, or informal network, or even, things that you need to work on yourself to deal with that journey.
Actually, we can tell that you have problems with walking. Other than what we can see, is there anything else that, since you've had the condition, that you struggle with?
I didn't know this, but I had to experience it for myself. I wanted to order hot soup because I really was craving for it.
Okay.
And then I was like, never mind chicken rice without soup.
Oh.
Right, because you were alone and there was no one there to help you.
I couldn't carry it safely to the table. Probably would reach the table, but the soup will be on the floor.
Right. Have you been in situations where you've had no choice but to ask, strangers for help?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I like to hold people's hands.
Right.
It's
Because sometimes
safer.
like going down the stairs is hard.
Yeah.
And if there's no railings and poles for me to hold on to, then I'll just ask a stranger like, hey, can I hold you to help me down? And everyone will say yes.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
I have not met a person who said no.
Because I've had encounters of people actually just ignoring a visually impaired in a busy MRT. So for me personally, if I see someone who needs help, I'll immediately ask them first. If they don't, then you at least ask, right?
Yeah. Kade, when you hear of Hashy's experiences, and I'm sure, with those people that you've worked with as well, how can we, first of all, as people without disabilities, be better?
It's a tricky area, because it's almost like a balance, She said that there was a lot of people very helpful, but just like the other side of the coin, some people are not so helpful. Some people are not so understanding. The question is why, right? Is it because maybe they're not aware? If you're not aware, maybe the answer is to ask more questions. Especially if you're interacting a lot with a person with disability, right? Understanding them, their situation, not making too much assumptions, And I think with that, you start to break some barriers.
Yeah, I like it when people ask me, like, how can I help you? Rather than standing and just staring at me for like 5 minutes.
It happens a lot.
It happens.
What is that to stare at, actually?
Just like looking at me
Just talk lah.
like zoo, I rather someone ask than just being strange.
The people that I interact with, they talk about people staring. Maybe that person just looks at the side or doesn't have a second thought. But I mean, you imagine how many of those interactions that you have in a day, right?
Yeah.
And then what is the impact? I think that's an important question to reflect on. And I think maybe another point is that while people are helpful, you can imagine how many times a day maybe someone approaches them and says, hey, can I help you? Can I do this? Can I grab your wheelchair? Can I grab your cane? In a way, it's well-intentioned, but the impact on that person, every day, being reminded that, I have this disability. I have to answer this person. I have to say, oh no, I do not need help. What is the toll? It's almost like a constant reminder also. So I think what maybe the message is, they don't really want your help. It's okay, Yeah. Thank you for asking, but it's okay as well.
Hashy, are you ever without your key? Or it's
a fixture now.
It's an extension of you now?
It's an extension of me.
I ask that because some disabilities we can see.
Yes.
And so we know they need help, right? But there are some disabilities that can't be seen. And these people need to face the world without people knowing of that. And so people have a harsher standard, or you can't do something and they just think like, what's wrong with you, right? Without considering that.
That's probably one of the most challenging things, right? First, you're facing and dealing with your challenges. And then the second part is that you sort of have to like validate other people, like overqualify,
Yeah.
I have some people that even share me like, okay, I have to act like I'm doing just so that I can have the priority seat,
right.
and then they have to deal with people looking at them, So it's a reality that people face, which almost adds another level of challenge.
Shall we move on to the second card?
Okay. How does trauma build up for a person with disability in an ableist society, say in getting a job and finding sustainability?
First, I mean, like, if you look at employment, it's an interesting like concept when it comes to persons with disability, because it's really their avenue for independence. And if you ask a person with disability, they don't really want a handout actually. They want to be independent. They want to stand on their own 2 feet, The question is, what's the reality of a workspace or a workplace for a person with disability? One is the accessibility, right? Even something as simple as traveling to work is not a straightforward thing. We go through one whole process, right? We have a guy, maybe inside a wheelchair. It could have some sort of mobility challenge, right? They reach the bus. And when you travel during peak time, it's crowded. It's definitely a different dynamic. It really highlights employment, the realities of everything that you have to face, on your day-to-day. And you can't really isolate yourself. Can you go to work and say, oh, I don't want to talk to anybody, or just like go into my own shell? The answer is no. Can you say that I don't want to travel, And the answer is no, So all of these things sort of like project itself into one situation where you have to sort of like say, how do I deal with everything? And that's where my program sort of like comes in and say that, yes, you have to take some of that burden, but we want to support you in some of the different areas as well, right? And looking at the accessibility, looking at what accommodations, for example, what are the things that are simple things that if you integrate into the workplace, it helps them. For example, if you go for meetings, transcription inside meetings, it would seem like quite obvious, but it's not something that everyone is like willing to do. And it's all these small things that if you add up, it becomes a challenge for them. So I think that's where we sort of want to advocate and work with employers. Sometimes it's not that they don't want, but it's just that they don't have the resources, the tools, the knowledge.
Hashy, on the surface, people might think, oh, she creates content, she gets to do it whenever she wants to, on her own terms. But what are some difficulties you face in your own job?
I've been very privileged to be able to work at my own time and, control like my work environment. But before I had this disability, I was doing PR and marketing for a hotel. So it was a very active job. I was walking everywhere. I was in heels and walking everywhere. And I would have loved to be doing that now. But with this condition, I know it's not possible for me. So that is something I do like, miss and grieve sometimes.
Does this change the way you see things and the way you work as well? Like you don't go out more often?
At some point, I fell into like a depression because I didn't know how to navigate like life. It's very difficult to do things. Like a normal person, you have like 100% capacity and then you do whatever you do and your everyday things. But as someone with a disability, my 100% is like, compacted because the tasks that are supposedly easy is difficult. So I do lesser things than I would normally want to do. Yeah.
So in this case in point, Kadir, I would say there's some activities that persons with disabilities may not be able to carry out at work. Does that mean you come in place as well as SPD with HR?
Yes, and how we do that is really we look at the person's condition and then we see, okay, what is it that they can perform at 100% and what is it that they can't perform at 100%? And we say, can we carve a role to say that let's just focus on the 100% so that those other areas don't bring the productivity down, or even certain accommodations which help them to perform at the workplace, I think that's what's been happening maybe for some people, right? Maybe in the hotel situation, right? Some people, they have acquired disability. So whatever role that they had is actually suddenly incredibly challenging to the point where you might just say, okay, I have to just quit, right? And what we say is that some of the parts of the job scope or the role, maybe if you change it up, you shift it up based on a lot of the professionals that we work with, we say that, hey, they can actually perform, So I think that's where we want to meet in the middle, have a mutual outcome for everybody.
Have you met with employers who say, it's too much work for me to have to move things around for one person? Actually, you know what? I can just hire someone else.
I mean, it's happening even in the normal job markets, right? A lot of times you see employers, once they maybe employ one person with disability, then the key sort of opens. So I think that one is a very important one to educate. And when we say educate, we go down and we talk to the employer. We say, this is a person's condition. This is things they can do. And this is things that is challenging for them. For example, like if you go outings, and you go to Universal Studios, you're not going to ask a person to go up the roller coaster, right? It seems obvious, but it may not be obvious for certain employers or situations, right?
Right.
So trying to just educate that process, and not just at the management level, but even at the co-workers level, and even letting the person with disability to express and share about their condition, and then everyone sort of like equals the playing field, the understanding, and then you sort of have a bit more of a nice work culture. Yeah.
Hashy, in your line of work, although, you've mentioned that you're very fortunate, you sort of have control over what you do and what you don't. What are some inconveniences or things that you've had, say, wow, I would love to do this, but now I really can't anymore?
I think some press trips are hard. Yeah, because it's like work, basically.
Yeah.
Everyone's moving at the same pace, and I would find it hard to like meet that pace.
Right.
And I don't want to bring everyone down, so sometimes I just say no.
Maybe they actually are very willing to, make certain adjustments, and, people are more than happy to tweak it around you a little bit. But does it feel like you just don't want to bother them and just feels like it's better to say no?
Yeah, sometimes I know it's a me thing, but yeah, sometimes I can't help it. I just don't want to be a burden. I know I shouldn't be saying that, and like my husband, my caregiver, tells me all the time, like, you shouldn't think that way if someone's including you because they want to. But my brain just goes there.
I also want to ask, right, what kind of trauma do you think have come from constantly feeling, out of place, or feeling like you need to cater to someone else?
Before, like, I didn't want to use my walking cane because having to rely on something that is not aesthetically pleasing, but then not using that walking cane means that I'm not doing things.
Yeah.
And then not doing things makes me go into a depression because I'm upset. Over time, I had to learn to accept help. Yeah, and help in the form of a walking cane, help in the form of people holding me, accepting when I get a seat, just say thank you. Don't need to be like, it's okay,
Right.
I was just thinking about this conversation I had with these two. One was a family of an ITE student who just graduated. They're all wheelchair users. And another one was a boy who really want to like move on with their life, move on with employment. Maybe they're not ready, they don't have the life experiences. They don't have that level where they feel confident to go to workplace and say, you know what, this is my boundaries. That's a reality that they have to face. And if they don't do that, then maybe they just isolate themselves, right? And it's a process, Hashy didn't just like pop up here. And it's not just like time which creates acceptance, You would think that, 10 years, there's people 20 years that haven't. Yeah. It's about the process and not really about, time will actually create this outcome,
I'm so glad, help like these exist, because I feel like not just people with disabilities who need this help, but even those of us who just want to understand how we can make the world a better place, because we already include them, but we want to know how we can do things that are a little bit more inclusive in a way where it's easier for them to partake in as well. Let's move on to our third question, shall we?
Let's go.
Okay. Now, question 3. How can we support PWDs, person with disabilities, without being patronizing? I'll start with Hashy. In what situations would you feel patronized?
I would ask for assistance at airports, like for wheelchair assistance, because it's really hard for me to get through immigration.
Yeah.
And sometimes they'll be like, what's wrong with you?
What?
And I'll have a letter and everything from my doctor.
Okay.
But it's just how people speak Sometimes the phrasing can be a bit nicer, a bit more graciousness.
You know that the intention is to find out why you need this help. You said that they could have asked it better. How can we ask better?
It's as simple as like, may I know what is your condition, for example.
Okay, so that would have been a lot better than asking what's wrong with
There's
you.
nothing wrong with me.
Yeah.
I just have a condition.
And maybe a tip is to maybe focus on like what accommodation that you need. Like what assistance do you need with, and that sort of like builds a picture of the person, and maybe that approach is a bit better.
In your experience, Khalid, and the people that you work with, right? Have you ever heard, of other stories where people were being patronizing?
I mean, like if I look at like a journey, take it the MRT for example, right? Okay. A person in a wheelchair or has some mobility challenges, and when they go to the lift, which is their only way to go up and down, a lot of people sort of like shove them or don't give them space, It's not uncommon. I hear it all the time.
And there was this one time I saw someone with a PMA, personal mobility aid, and they're trying to reverse into the lift, but nobody is pressing the lift, and then the lift door closed, and it can be quite frustrating. I had to scold some people. I said, excuse me, are you not seeing this person? Our society needs to do better.
Yeah.
Hashy, what about support from your friends? How is it like for you?
My friends have learned how to support me. Emotionally, mentally, and physically. I have this friend. He'll just come up next to me. He's like, you can hold me whenever, okay? It's just simple as that. It's just assuring me that if I need help, he's there. And I have plenty of friends like that. Who knows how to be around me without, like overdoing things. Yeah.
When someone overdoes something for you, like let's say they want to take care of everything for you, does that make you feel like, oh, you really think I can't do anything?
I try not to see it in a negative way. Okay. I try to take everything positively. It's just because they want to help. Because they're my friend. But I also feel bad. Like, no, it's okay. Like, there are just some things I also want to do on my own.
Talk about independent. What would be the one thing you want to do, right? So exciting that, that might be difficult for you, but you want to challenge yourself.
Oh, yes. High Rocks 2027.
Is that what you're doing?
Yes.
You're training for High Rocks?
I'm training with my physiotherapist.
Wow.
Oh my gosh.
Yes, I mean, they have adaptive division because they are very inclusive. No, I think, I try not to stop myself from doing things I want to do.
Yeah, that's great.
I mean, everything within capacity. If I can do it, I do it. If I cannot, I don't beat myself up about it. But I just try my best, and that's just how I live my everyday and my life. Just trying my best.
My question would be, I think this might be for everyone. What collective changes do you think our society needs to do better?
Maybe this idea of like curiosity. I think curiosity like opens up a lot more like questions. When you ask a lot more questions, even to yourself, then you start to break a lot of the barriers. Opens up a lot more awareness about what is another person's experience. And with that, I think it opens up a lot more doors to how people treat others, how employers are open to employing persons with disabilities. I think it will change a lot more than the reality of whether a space is accessible,
So it starts with curiosity, and I think that will allow you to learn and understand. Because it comes hand in hand, right? You don't understand, you can't learn. You don't learn, you can't understand.
Let me tell you a story, because like you would assume that me as this like social worker work with persons with disabilities. One time I was in doing a training. Inside the training you have people with physical disability, hard of hearing. Then we have a person who's also has visual impairment. Well, I realized that my slides required this QR code, and inside the QR code you have to type all your responses.
Right.
And at that point, I'm asking myself, how did I allow this to happen, right? Maybe using like curiosity, and I just approached it. I said, I'm so sorry. There's something on the screen now. How do I help you? You tell me now. I don't want to act like I'm the expert. Basically, what happened is like, you don't worry. This is what I need you to do. I give you my phone. You just scan the QR code, okay? And what he did is he took out headphones, which he plugged into his phone. Yeah. And he took out a Bluetooth keyboard, and he said, just tell me what's on the screen right now. And with some tools, which he can do a screen reader and his Bluetooth keyboard, he was actually outperforming some of the aunties who don't really think. So even for myself, I think there's always room for like this curiosity.
Of course. Hashy, what were some resources that you turned to when you were adjusting to disability?
I go for physio, so I talk to my physiotherapist. I talk to my doctors also. So I guess these were the resources I went to.
At least you know that you're not alone in this journey yourself.
I've not been alone in this journey. And I think having a platform and sharing it online, people been like reaching out to me saying it's inspiring, it's been helping them, but I feel like it's helped me more than that, you know, finding my community who understands what having a disability feels like.
Thanks so much for being vulnerable with us, because we learned so much today, right?
And thank you, Kade, for just giving us an insight into the help available for both those with disabilities as well as, people who are able or in the position to help them, right? If there's one thing to take away today, Fauzi, I think it's that listening, learning and making space matters more than trying to fix anyone. You're not there to, fix someone.
Correct.
All you need to do is be a shoulder, right?
Yeah, and accessibility is respect. Like you need to approach people with tact and with curiosity, what we've learned today. And healing is always ongoing. And no one should have to have navigate it alone.
Yeah, today has made me think, how can we show up for people with disabilities? Maybe you can think about that.
I can be employed also now. I will talk to
Yes, exactly.
That's right.
Yeah, now you have one more contract.
I can apply for a job now.
So thank you so much for watching Pantang. We'll see you in the next episode.
Bye-bye.